Hello and welcome to the FJR boardroom. It's our first boardroom, and today I'm here with Neil Owen and Max Learmonth, managing partners of our business. We just wanted to dive into the report on recruitment and just give you guys a lot more information and give you some real cold-faced anecdotal evidence of what's happening in the market. So just thought it would be great to get those guys and just talk through what was said in the report. So I suppose from a UK perspective, there were sort of three core highlights which I have spoken about previously, but just as a reminder, recruitment activity did pick up in August, which was great to see across the UK. There was a sharper rise in candidate supply, so we are still seeing some of the furlough schemes coming to an end and more candidates coming onto the market. I suppose the third point was, overall, the demand still remains fairly weak compared to sort of historical numbers that we've had. I suppose what will be interesting now is sort of dive into more local areas. So Neil, obviously, responsible for the south of England, predominantly London. How are you seeing the report?
Thanks, John. Yeah, I mean, look, specific to the south, and you're looking at the excerpts from the rec report that we're feeding back on. I think specific for the south, very similar trends to the UK, but in more plentiful supply. The report outlines that perm placements have come back at a decent pace compared to July, and probably over what we've seen as a UK average. But just maybe more prominent is the increase in temp billings that the report highlights, and the index on that is an increase over and above that on perm. So there's while I think the general sentiment from the report still highlights a very challenging market, that is definitely some very positive data specific to the south.
And how does that compare to, I suppose, what you're seeing yourselves within your team?
Yeah, that's where it gets a bit more challenging. So look, our business, we're very entrenched within finance into financial services, and very much into technology placements, which will touch financial services as well, but also a lot of sort of scaling tech disruptors. I think what we've seen, it feels to us like it's been a very consistent COVID period from April, May, June, July, August, all the way through. From our personal ability to find candidates' roles, it's just been very steady. Actually, looking at the job flow data that we've seen, we did see a good increase in August over and above July. So that has been positive. Putting out the trends between sort of perm and temp, the temp market in London has been challenging all year, even before COVID. And I've spoken to many people about, I think last year Brexit caused a lot of uncertainty in the market. We came into Q1 of this year, and the IR35 reforms seemed to dampen that contract market at the beginning part of the year before COVID. And then obviously with the pandemic coming in mid-March, that really has put a challenging situation for contractors out there. So, just starting to see a few more contract roles come on the market, which has been positive, but it still feels like we're a little bit away from anything like what we were seeing probably this time last year. And I think the biggest thing to comment upon as well at the moment is obviously the amount of candidates that are actively job seeking. So every vacancy we have at the moment is super competitive, and so how we're working with our candidates to best brief them and give them all the information on any role as possible, and make sure we're pulling out their skill sets to highlight with the roles that we're representing them on has been a big part of what we've been doing over the summer.
And have you seen those trends continue into September, or is it too early to?
Yeah, I'd say, look, I guess anecdotal feedback on September, it does seem like there are more opportunities out there, but a lot of clients are looking to try and recruit themselves. A lot of on-site or direct recruiting businesses are sort of trying to do the recruit themselves, which I get. If people aren't wanting to pay a recruitment fee, I can understand that. But it does mean that those businesses have to work through a significant number of responses, because the response to any job ad that people place online at the moment is significant.
Yep.
We've been posting jobs, which isn't clearly the only source of candidates that we would use, but typically, a role where we would have potentially got 30 to 40 applications, we're now getting well in excess of 100, 150. And many of those applications aren't suitable for that role. So it takes a lot of time to go through and deal with those. So yeah, it does seem like there are more jobs coming on the market, but they're just super competitive at the moment.
Right. And Max, I mean, just responsible for the north, predominantly sort of the Greater Manchester area. What are you seeing in comparison?
I think from the report, I think the main thing to highlight was that there was a softer fall in permanent placements and temporary billings across Greater Manchester and the Northwest. August, also shows the highest amount of permanent appointments in the last 6 months. But to Neil's point, it's been better. It's been better than previous months, but there's still challenges that we as a business and every business is currently working through. In terms of, I suppose, the key things that I suppose to highlight really for me is that we're a long way off from pre-COVID levels of recruitment, but there has been an uptick in new positions being created across a number of different sectors across the Northwest.
Yeah. And are there any particular sectors that you're seeing more movement in? Is there any sort of anecdotal stuff that you're seeing through the office across the different teams?
Yeah, I think we've seen quite a large amount across digital marketing agencies, which have been positive, predominantly within technology, being more specific than that in and around .NET development space. Within predominantly our finance brand, we've seen manufacturing and logistics, coupled with distribution being businesses or sectors that are more active than others. Right.
Okay. And how are you seeing candidate flow? How is that sort of being seen again from the office, as opposed to, is there any contradictions compared to the report?
No, I think very, very similar to what Neil has said. There is definitely an increased supply of candidates being available on the marketplace. And similar to the report, that's just going to create potentially downward pressure on permanent salaries out there, and what clients are, what was and what is now. But there is definitely a high volume of supply of candidates in the marketplace at the moment.
And Neil, just for a sentiment perspective, are you, as you're talking to some of the leaders that we're working with in sort of clients and sort of board members, is there any particular sentiment that you're getting from them in terms of how they feel the next 3 to 4 months, how the rest of the year is going to play out?
Yeah, it's been really hard to get to sort of pick up on trends within industries and also sectors. It does seem there are some businesses out there that are hiring and some are hiring on mass because their particular business model or where that business is at in its evolution, whether it be through funding or revenue creation at the moment, it means they've got work to be done and they're hiring. I think what we're probably, from a sentiment standpoint, roles that are on the market at the moment are generally critical hires. So they are moving at a good pace and a good cadence. So therefore, candidates that are going through the recruitment process are pretty pleased and positive about the process. And clients are happy because it's just been at that good pace. They're signed off, they're critical hires, the business needs to hire them. We're actually in good markets sometimes, with businesses sort of navigating through where they spend their resources and in what area of the business, because they've got so many competing priorities. That can slow the recruitment process down. So, I'm not sure it's quite answering your question, but that's probably one of the trends that we are seeing at the moment.
Yeah. And I suppose same to you, Max. As you're speaking to the client base, are you getting much sentiment from them about how they're feeling about investment in hiring over the next 3 to 6 months?
I think it's very much a double-edged sword. To Neil's point, business critical positions about how they can drive that revenue growth. Looking at specifically from a finance perspective, hiring people that can help drive the business forward. But the other side of that sword that I mentioned is around cost control and reducing costs. So they're looking to bring in more commercial individuals that can identify areas where costs can be reduced.